ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله جليل النعم باعث الهمم بالجهد والكرم، والصلاة والسلام تامان أكملان على خير البرية محمد ابن عبد الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه واتبع هداه. قبل كل شيء نشكر الله عز وجل الذي قد أعطانا صحة تامة وفرصة مباركة حتى نستطيع أن نواصل مشاركتنا في هذه الدورة القصيرة. كما بالأمس سنستفيد إن شاء الله هذا اليوم من المادات المهمة علوما كثيرة التي تتعلق عن الحديث و the COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, there are three different presenters who will present each topic today. The first presenter was Jannatul Husna PhD, is a lecturer in Hadith Science at the Faculty of Islamic Religion, Ahmad Dahlan University. He will discuss the subject matter titled Hadith Studies During and After Pandemic. And the second presenter was Nurhanisah binti Senin, PhD, a lecturer at Department of Da'wah and Usuluddin, Faculty of Islamic Civilization Studies, Selangor International Islamic University College. Dr. Nurhanisah will discuss subject matter titled Understanding Theodicy in Pandemic Context. And our last presenter was Niki Alma Febriana Fauzi, STHIMUS, is a lecturer at the same department as Ustaz Jannatul Husna, and Mr. Alma will present material entitled Hadith and Technology Towards the Death of Traditional Hadith Studies. طبعا الآن نأتي إلى المحاضرة الأولى التي سيلقيها جنة الحسنى PhD. أستاذ جنة، أهلا أستاذ جنة.
أهلا بك. أهلا.
الحمد لله.
الطرق الصحيحة في فهم السنة النبوية، ويليه الأستاذ عريف الدين أحمد. وأمر جديد في هذا القرن، يعني قرنين 2001 و2000، يعني نقول ديجيتاليزاسي. ما معناه في العرب؟ computerization or digitalization of hadith. هذا أمر قد تكلم به علي شهدي إسماعيل، محمد شهدي إسماعيل في سنة 2000 ماذا نقول 85، يعني سنة 85 قد تكلم به شهدي إسماعيل، واستمر به الأستاذ الدكتور أحمد لطفي فتح الله عن digitalization of hadith. أوكي، طيب أيها الإخوة والأحباء في الله، نستمر إلى مادة محتويات الدراسات الحديثية أثناء الجائحة أو أثناء الكورونا. إذا تكلمنا عن محتويات الدراسات الحديثية أثناء الجائحة، أظن هذا لا فرق بين قبل الجائحة وأثناء الجائحة وبعد الجائحة. يعني لكن في أثناء الجائحة نتكلم أكثر عن الكوفيد، عن الوباء، عن البلاء، عن الطاعون. هذا الرسالة أو الكتب التي تتكلم حول كوفيد والكورونا والوباء والبلاء، وهذا تتلو بشكل متزايد. هذا نقول. مثلا نحن نجد الرسالة أو الكتابة التي تتكلم بهذه الأمور، مثلا أحاديث حول الوقاية من كوفيد 19 مثلا. هذا الرسالة التي كتب عليه مؤلفها. وأيضا نحن نجد الرسالة التي طبع في جورنال الحماية الذاتية أثناء الجائحة استنادا إلى حديث النبوي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وكذلك الرسالة مثلا موجود، نحن نجد الرسالة عن رسول الله والوقاية من الطاعون وغيرها، وهذا كلها. وأيضا عندما الجائحة، عندما الكورونا، نحن نجد وسيلة جديدة في تعلم ودراسة الحديثية. يمكن نحن لم نجد بعد كورونا مثلا جوجل ميت، زوم، لايف ستريمينج، يوتيوب، ويبكس ونحوها. وعندما الجائحة وإنما كوفيد 19 نحن نتكلم وندرس مع طلابنا بهذه الوسيلة الجديدة. وكذلك نحن يمكن نعرف عن وسيلة التدريس المزامنة، نقول سينكرون، وسيلة غير متزامن، التعلم إلكتروني، غرفة الصف، جوجل سيرش، نشر المقالات في المجالات إلى آخره. نحن ننظر إلى هذه الوسيلة وهذه المحتويات. هناك مزايات وعيوب عندما دراسة الحديثية أثناء الجائحة. مثلا المزايات أثناء الجائزة، نحن قد تم تفكيك العديد من الكنوز القديمة مرة أخرى، خاصة فيما يتعلق بالسنة. مثلا الرسالة تتكلم عن مصدقية الحديث في بذل المعون في فضل الطاعون. هذا الكتاب الذي كتب عليه الشيخ الإمام ابن حجر الأسقلاني. هذا هو غير معروف قبل الجائحة. وأثناء الجائحة هذا نحن نتكلم عن هذا الكتاب، يعني كتاب بذل المعون في فضل الطاعون التي كتب به ابن حجر الأسقلاني. وكذلك نحن نتكلم أكثر عن الطاعون اللاهوتي، منظور ابن حجر في بذل الطاعون في فضل الطاعون، بذل المعون في فضل الطاعون. ونتعلم الابتكار باستخدام تكنولوجيا المعلومات والاتصالات. والحد من هذا هو ماذا نقول أثناء الجائزة، الدراسات الحديثية أثناء الجائزة. هذا كله مزايات مهمة، وكذلك النقط الضعيفة. مثلا جعل المتعلمين أو المعلمين أو المحاضرين غير مركزين، لأنهم مثلا يهتمون بأشياء كثيرة. نحن ندرس مع أستاذ أسقو، وفي هذا الوقت نحن يمكن نغتسل في الحمام أو نتوضأ أمام الفصل وغيرها وهكذا. هذا هو النقط الضعيفة. إما المزايات النافعة، الدراسات الحديثية أثناء الجائزة. ثم نستمر إلى قسم آخر. هذا أظن هذا من تكلمي آخر، يعني محتويات الدراسات الحديثية، التعليم والبحث في السنة النبوية بعد الجائحة post pandemic. لابد علينا أن نستوعب منهج ما بعد الجائحة، مزيجا من الحديث والإعلام بالنسبة إلى تفشي المرض والجائحة والقضايا المتوطنة. نحتاج من الأساتذة أو الطلاب والجمهور، يعني والقضايا المتوطنة، نحتاج نحن من الأساتذة أو الطلاب والجمهور والمجتمع إلى تعريف خطاب الحديث أو مضمون الحديث حول القضايا المتطورة أو المتعاصرة. مثلا جهودنا أن نتكلم المبذولة للحفاظ على البيئة فقها للحديث مثلا، من أجل توقيع التغير المناخ مثلا. وكذلك نحن أن نطبق أسلوب الجرة والتدلي من أجل توقيع والخطاب الكراهية الذي يعرف في المحمدية بفقه المعاملات، بفقه المعلومات أو فقه إنفورماسي مثلا. إن أحدث القضايا التي تحتاج إلى الرد عليها من منظور القرآن والحديث والتراث، حتى لا يتم اقتلاعها كمسلمين من جذور الصنبور مثلا. هذا هو. وكذلك نرتقي عندما بعد الجائحة أو بعد الكورونا، بعد كوفيد 19، لنرتقي وسيلة التعلم ودراسات الحديثية. كما عرفنا في أثناء الجائحة نحن نستعمل تكنولوجيا، وكذلك أقول يجب علينا أن تعرف المحاضرين والطلاب على وسيلة تكنولوجية المعلومات والاتصالات. وكذلك يجب علينا أن تعرف المحاضرين والطلاب على أحدث نموذج لتتبع المصادر، بما في ذلك استخدام تطبيقات الحديث شاملة مثلا موسوعة الحديثية. وكذلك يحتاج المحاضرون والطلاب إلى التعرف على تقليد الحفاظ على الأمانة العلمية في أحدث سياق، عن طريق تعقيم مثلا نستعمل مندلي زوتيرو المذكرة النهاية النوت إلى آخر. هذا هو أقول. فأخيرا أظن هذا هو كلام أخير. لا يمكن افتراض مسامحة العلماء والمؤسسات التعليمية من وقت إلى وقت في تطوير الحديث في أرخل الملايوية. الأخيرا، لا تزال تحديات دراسات الحديثية بعد الوباء مرتفعة، ويجب على نشاط الحديث معرفة التطبيق تعلم الحديث وتطبيق تتبع الحديث وكيفية كتابة أفكار الحديث بأحدث طريقة والاستشهادات وما إلى ذلك وغير ذلك. أخيرا، بالله في سبيل الله حق فاستبقوا الخيرات. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
لمحاضرنا الجليل أستاذ جنة الحسنى PhD الذي قد ألقي إلينا مادة نافعة. أيها المشاركون، سننتقل إلى المحاضرة الثانية التي ستلقيها نور هانسة بنت سنين PhD. أهلا دكتور نور هانسة. الصوت لم.
Assalamualaikum.
الحمد لله. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. إلى دكتور نور هانسة فليتفضل مشكورا.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Qala rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahil aliyyil azim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, thank you very much, our moderator for this program, Ustaz Qaim Aulia Shahid, and dear respected speakers, Dr. Jannatul Husna and also Dr. Niki Alma. Beloved students from University Ahmad Dahlan and College University Islam Antarabangsa Selangor, how are you today? Okay, is my voice heard?
Yes.
Okay. What about the slide? Wait, hold on.
The slide also clear.
Clear. Yeah. All right. Allow me to deliver my presentation today in English, if it's possible. Okay. Wait. Hold on, because I cannot see my slide. Okay. Is this a full screen or?
Yes, full
In
screen.
presentation mode. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, today Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Inshallah, I will share with you regarding the understanding of theodicy in pandemic context. So, okay, I'm Nur Hanisa binti Senin. Okay, I'm from Department of Da'wah and Usuluddin. So this is my first time, and I'm quite excited to share with you all about the presentation itself on the pandemics and in understanding the theodicy itself. Okay, this is the outline of the presentation. Basically, the first is the introduction part. Secondly, evil and sufferings in the Quran. Third, concept of evil and God's justice. Misconceptions in understanding God's actions. Al-Ghazali's response. And understanding theodicy in pandemic context, and lastly, conclusion. So, what is theodicy? Basically, when the pandemic hit us, people tends to question regarding God's justice, regarding God's actions. God is the most powerful. God is the omnipotent. But what happened with the world full of evil? Why a perfectly God permits evil? These questions are commonly asked by the layman when pandemic or anything in life, bad episodes happen to somebody. They will tend to ask these kind of questions. Okay, so theodicy actually originates from Greek word, constitutes of two terms, theo and theo means God and dite means justice. It is an explanation of why perfectly God permits evil. This has been discussed extensively in theological, philosophical discussion on God itself, God himself. The problem of evil or the cause of human suffering, especially undeserved suffering. This is perhaps one of the most debated questions in the history of philosophy of religion. It gains particular attention in the context of monotheistic religions as it brings into question the main pillar of religion, namely the existence of a powerful and a merciful God, especially in the case of undeserved suffering, which actually begs for answers. Omnipotent God and yet enormous amount of evil happen in the world. So this is the main question, and this is the main problem which pose serious challenge to the theistic faith. I've read several articles that demonstrate that that actually showed how atheist thinkers they actually they began their atheistic thinking is when they dealt themselves into the theodicy, the issues of the problem of evil, the issues of theodicy. They tend to explore further on the justice of God and couldn't find the answers. That's why it is important for us. It is essential for us to explain to the layman, explain to the people, to Muslim community, especially uh, how should we interpret God's justice? How should we understand theodicy in sufferings, in illnesses, in evils that happenings around us? Okay, so next. So basically, the concept of man's evil is often related to God's justice. When man commits evil, one starts to question whether the action was actually on part of God's action, or the person himself is responsible for his own deed. So acts of evil, human suffering, natural disaster. And this is part of the questions arise within the discussion of theodicy itself. So the universal questions, the universal questions that remain being explored and remain being questioned by people: are evil and sufferings considered as the act of God or man? Who determines what is good or evil? Does evil and suffering possess similar connotation to God and man? So these are the basic questions that most people begs for answers. Most people wanted to know who are the main actor behind all these, behind evils that is happening, behind the disasters, behind the sufferings and all that. Okay, first and foremost, we have to look into the syarah of the Quran, evils and sufferings. What does the Quran say about evil and sufferings? What does the Quran explain to us about evils and sufferings? So basically, evil is translated as shar in Arabic. Shar is mentioned around 30 or more times in the Quran. Basically, shar refers to unbelief, rejecting God, slander, and transgression. So when a man, through his own volition, acts in certain ways and adapts to specific behaviors that are not in accordance with the divine plan, he actually situates himself in a condition that is referred to as shar. When a person, a Muslim, commits bad things, commit a sins in Islam, for example, commit zina, robbery, and all that, he himself situate himself in a condition that is referred to as shar. So this is ma'ruf, this is known to us. So the Quran noticeably upholds that the creation of the universe and humankind is purposeful and not in vain. When Allah creates something, be it for us good or bad in our eyes, it is actually purposeful. It is not in vain. Meaning, there is nothing that happen in this world without a purpose. Okay, so even when pandemic hit us, when pandemic happens, COVID-19, it came with a purpose. It did not came in vain. Shar occurs when man neglects his responsibility, which leads to undesirable living conditions for himself. So the overall notion of good and bad or evil is a central theme in Quran teaching. In fact, the term is that if being reflected in the Quran is shar. Okay. Okay, next. Human sufferings is not treated in the Quran as a theoretical problem, but rather as an instrument in the actualization of God's purpose. Most of these narratives illustrate that the underlying rationale for the existence of various forms of evil and suffering is that they serve as a trial or ibtila and test, as mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah, ayat 155. We shall certainly test you with fear and hunger and loss of property, lives, crops. However, give good news to those who are steadfast. So in the Quran, it is mentioned clearly that sufferings, evils and sufferings, disasters, pandemics, what we call as illnesses, the losses, all of these are actually is a part of ibtila, is part of trial to man to actually test human, to actually test a Muslim, to actually encourage one to be more patient, okay, to have more tawakal, and to have more belief in Allah. So the purpose of suffering therefore may suggest two consequences as mentioned in the Quran. First, there is no contradiction between divine attributes of God and the sufferings that exist. Therefore, God's affirmation is not under question. Okay, so this is the first affirmation or the first what we say a conclusion that we can find from the Quran regarding evil and sufferings. Okay, there is no contradiction at all because God's justice, God's omnipotence is not under our question. It's not under it is not for us to question. It is not for us to question, and it is not our part, our role to obligate God with something. Okay. As it is being mentioned in Surah Al-Imran, say, O Prophet, O Allah, Lord over all authorities, you give authority to whoever you please and remove it from who you please. You honor whoever you please and disgrace who you please. All good is in your hands. Surely you alone are most capable of everything. So this is clear that Allah has the power to do anything that he wants. Okay, he wills whatever he wants. Okay. Secondly, if suffering is meant as a test and is regarded as necessary component of life, then a Muslim must view that undesirable situations as an opportunity to actualize his inner potential. This is what we say as hikmah. When we are faced when we face something that is undesirable to us, illnesses, be it sufferings or other things that we regard it as bad, we regard it as something that is undesirable, then it is actually our opportunity to actualize our inner potential and to increase our patience, to increase our tawakkul towards Allah. So the Quran does not intend to engage man in abstract ideas, but rather to help him realize the purpose of suffering and offer guiding principles. This is what the Quran do. Okay, this is what the Quran serve for us to actually to guide us throughout our sufferings, throughout our illnesses, throughout our losses. So natural evil that might not be desirable by mankind are not referred as evil. It does not fall under the umbrella of the problem of evil, which is being discussed by the Western scholars. So basically, evil that is mentioned by the Western scholars does not actually relate to what shar is mentioned in the Quran. Okay, as what we know when we say that ibtila, for example, illnesses, sufferings are all actually part of ibtila, part of a test for us to overcome. And indeed, it is actually our opportunity to increase to actualize our inner potential. So it can be concluded that the Quran refrains from articulation as a systematic theodicy. The notion of evil and suffering in the Quran are part of human experience and and I can say as a necessary component of a man's spiritual journey. So next, okay, the concept of evil itself, when being discussed in Islamic thought, it is actually one of, I can say, the earliest problems in Muslim theological thought was how to reconcile the attribute of omnipotence with human free will. In a broader view, which include human suffering, this was among the first attempt to initiate theodicy within the context of Islamic thought. The discourse occurs itself at the core of theological dialogue. As we can see, the first madhab or the first thought, it was the Mu'tazilite, okay, the Mu'tazila, opposed to the idea that God creates human acts that include evil and advocated for human free will by emphasizing the importance of the divine attribute of justice, adl. Illness and disasters may be seen as evil are in actuality good that God creates and that serve a significant purpose. So the Mu'tazila, they upheld that God, in accordance with his attributes of adl, cannot create evil, and that evil is a direct result of man's freedom of choice. The view was challenged by questions, by questions arise. For example, if God does not create evil, who then is responsible for human suffering and by illness, caused by illnesses and disasters? So another madhab, the Asha'ira, who mentioned that God creates all acts. Human freely acquires certain acts and accountable for the accusation of good and evil acts. Applying the idea of justice to God will put a limit on all-powerful creator. God is not bound by his own laws. He is just in whatever he does. So in the discussion of suffering by the Asha'ira, this means that according to Asha'ira, all sufferings have been willed by God, who is just in all his actions. Although God creates all acts, but humans are accountable for the acquisitions of good and evil acts. Okay, so we move on to the Al-Ghazali concept of theodicy. Okay, so when we mention there are two main thoughts, the Mu'tazila and the Asha'ira. So basically, both agree that be it good or bad, it is actually from the Asha'ira part, be it good or bad, it is actually as part of the actions of God. Okay. Okay, Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali, as we know, Al-Ghazali's significant impact on advancing Muslim scholastic thought is the main reason he is often referred as Hujjatul Islam. His extensive education in theology and jurisprudence, Al-Ghazali flourished at a young age and earned a professorship position at one of the most distinguished academic settings in Madrasa al-Nizamiyah. So basically, Al-Ghazali's discourse on the concept of theodicy is extensively discussed or written in his book Al-Iqtisad Al-I'tiqad and Ihya Ulum ad-Din. Al-Ghazali first deliberated the fundamental definition of evil itself. So Al-Ghazali mentioned that evil is something against the purpose of the hereafter and otherwise are good. Everything that is good are in line with the purpose of the hereafter, and everything that is bad or evil is against the purpose of the hereafter or against the Sharia itself. So Al-Ghazali delineated good and bad as relative if rendered to human limit of understanding. Okay, because human thought, human thinking are different from one man to another. We have different and relative thought. Okay, if an act of evil occurs to man, rendering it to God is impossible, as what man assumes is bad for him may not be that bad at all according to God. Okay, so when we think something, for example, disaster, for example, the pandemic itself, okay, the illnesses, it perhaps according to our judgment, it may be something that undesirable, it may be something bad, okay, because it causes us to lose someone, it causes us illnesses, undesirable situation and all that. But God, it may be something good. So this is what Al-Ghazali affirms and try to correct the misunderstandings of human towards God. Al-Ghazali instructs one to train the intellect not to judge God, as one judges human as it will entail obligating God with purpose. Okay? It is not right when we try to obligate, when we try to necessitate God, when we assume that God must do this and must not do that. Okay? It is like we train our children. Okay? Don't do this and don't do that. Isn't that is not proper if we put it our judgment that kind of way towards God. So God has no obligation, right? Because every act is possible for him. Obligation leads to harm when one abandons the act. It is impossible to harm or affect God with anything, especially his servants. Okay, so Al-Ghazali tries to actually attempt to correct, to explain to us that our judgment, that our conception, that our understanding towards God is must be on the line, must be in the line with Sharia, must be in the line with the correct definition of justice, be in the line with the correct understanding of the omnipotence of God himself. Okay. So okay, next. Injustice is not applicable to God. For injustice is only imaginable on the part of someone whose act might affect other. Yet this is not qualified in respect with God. Okay? The servants are God's property and he is free to act according to his will. A man is not considered unjust in whatever he does to his own property. For example, we would like to take our car and change the paint into other colors. Other people could not judge us. Oh, this is not right for you to do this kind, to paint your own car. It is not our right to judge other people what to do with their own property. So that is the metaphor that Al-Ghazali has given to us in regard with theodicy, in regard with understanding God's justice in the issue of evil and sufferings. Therefore, God cannot be perceived as unjust for taking something away from his creations. This is very much true. Okay? Like the examples that I've given just now, obligation leads to harm when one abandons the act. For example, if we obligate and necessitate God to actually stop the pandemic, to stop the COVID-19 from spreading, it is not right because God has free wills. He is free to do anything he wants. It is nevertheless impossible to harm or affect God with anything, especially his servants. Okay. So in sum, it can be said that in addressing the issue of evil in relation with God, one cannot deny that it is also parts of God's creation. However, one has to understand that the evil acts are not similar in the eyes of man and God. It might be look bad in our opinions, but not God. But to God, it might be the opposite way. Al-Ghazali emphasized that God should be dismissed from any obligatory acts. One should not limit what God should and should not do. Al-Ghazali totally embraced God's total power and will in determining occurrences, be good or bad in the eyes of men. So God is just and should not be obligated. This is the main understanding and the main thesis of Al-Ghazali within man's limited cognitive assumptions. So in kitab Ihya Ulum ad-Din, kitab Tauhid wa Tawakkul, he mentions that everything God distributes among men, such as sustenance, lifespan, ajal, happiness, sadness, weakness, power, faith, unbelief, obedience, apostasy, all of it is unqualifiedly just with no injustice in it, true with no wrong infecting it. Indeed, all this happens according to a necessary and full order, according to what is appropriate, as it is appropriate and in the measure that is proper to it. Nor is nothing more fitting, more perfect, and more attractive with the realm of possibility. For if something was to exist and remind one of the sheer omnipotence of God and not of the good things accomplished by his action, it will be miscellaneous that utterly contradicts God's generosity and injustice, contrary to divine justice. And if God were no omnipotent, he will be impotent, thereby contradicting the nature of divinity. This is what Al-Ghazali summarized in Ihya Ulumuddin. Here it can be seen that he responded in more sophisticated tradition. It is embedded within the broader context of Tawheed and Tawakkul. This serves as, I can say, practical guidelines for us to reach a high level of trust in God despite the apparent imperfections of the world itself. Prior to that, Al-Ghazali has mentioned earlier on the proofs of God's wisdom and justice. In order to fully trust in God that this world, including its imperfections, is the best of all possible worlds, one must be able to genuinely believe that creation is planned according to God's will and with wisdom. Okay, so it can be deduced that Al-Ghazali's approach in Ihya Ulumuddin is a more sophisticated approach towards the tawakkul, towards the tawheed, towards the approach of tawheed, through the approach of tawheed and tawakkul itself. The most popular phrase that has been used, commonly used and referred to Al-Ghazali's concept of theodicy, that there is not in possibility anything more wonderful than what it is. Laisa fil imkan abda mimma kana. Okay, so this is what Al-Ghazali mentioned and explained in his writings. Okay, there are some misconceptions in understanding theodicy. First, according to the Islamic context, in Islamic perspective, understanding good and evil within the limitation of human mind. When we try to understand, when we try to perceive, when we try to judge, put judgment towards God based on man's limited perception, that is when we delve ourselves into mistakes and errors in understanding the theodicy itself, okay, the concept of justice of God. A person might apply the term bad if it does not meet their own purpose. Okay, so what if this particular act is meet somebody else's own purpose? So it will be something relative. Okay, that's why Al-Ghazali highlighted the misconceptions when we tend to presuppose, when we tend to put judgment towards God based on our mind, based on our limited cognitive ability to actually conceive God. So the third one is presupposing normative relation to the unknown. For instance, names like Indian or Negro, for example, are associated with poor complexion. This is the normative relation that people do. People tend to do mistakes like this. So most people conceive something through estimation rather than clear intellect proof. So that's why Al-Ghazali emphasized that um, it is wrong and it is incorrect to put judgment towards God, and it is incorrect to actually refer God's justice as using our own yardstick. Okay, making the last one is making assumptions based on normality towards God. Okay, by putting, as I said, by putting God and man on the same yardstick. This is very, very wrong. Okay. So understanding the theodicy in pandemic context, as we know, sufferings and illness, as has been mentioned earlier, should not reflect God's injustice or imperfections. In fact, the imperfection of being demonstrates God's divinity. Men should not associate God to any act of compulsion or obligation in understanding His justice and wisdom. Okay? We should not compulsorize, and we should not necessitate God with something, and we should not put judgment towards God in doing something or in avoiding something. Okay, therefore, in facing difficulties and sufferings, a Muslim should accept it as a positive thing in life. Okay, sufferings, for instance, what are the good things? What are the positive impacts that could might be elevate our spirituality and all that. Okay, this is part of the purpose. Ibtila, as mentioned in the Quran earlier. These challenges help one to become a better people. One must has a good assumption to Allah along with tawheed and tawakkul, total reliance to God. So in the context of pandemic, whereby people suffer with illnesses and losses, this pose actually serious challenges to Muslim faith. There must be questions like God has the power to end the endemic, but why didn't He? The questions, these questions actually need to be resolved, need to be answered. They need to be explained, so people could understand, Muslims could understand, and it won't actually tarnish their faith as a Muslim. So as it will entail, if it is not being answered, okay, if it is not being the answer cannot satisfy their what we say their universal issues or their thinking, it will entail to further serious questions regarding God's existence and all that. Okay, so therefore, as a conclusion, the notion of evil and human suffering is not portrayed as a problem to be resolved actually, but rather as part of human experience. And this is part of the conclusion. One has to actually find meaning and lessons, as we can see from what we went through. If that happens actually to make one practice further of patience and other good virtues, perhaps. Okay, secondly, the notion of evil should not be attributed to God. This must be highlighted, okay, and affirmed and believed by all our Muslim fellows. Acts of evil, as mentioned in the Quran, is transgression, and it is impossible to associate God with this act. And this must be clear. The third one, God should not be necessitated with anything as He is omnipotent. Okay, as mentioned by Imam Al-Ghazali earlier, our main mistakes as human is that we assume God. We assume God to be the same with us. We assume our mind can conceive, can perceive whatever God's situation is, and making assumptions based on normality to God, and that is very incorrect to do. Okay, in understanding the other theodicy. Okay, number 4. God creates with his kudra and irada that are free from man's knowledge and perception. Number 5, all things happen accordingly to a necessary and true order. Okay, this is what like what is mentioned in Ihya. Everything happens according to what is appropriate, as is appropriate and in the measure that is proper to it, nor is nothing more fitting, more perfect, and more attractive within the realm of possibility. So everything that happens now is actually the most perfect possibility that could have happened, that could ever happen, right? In present, past, or future. Okay, last but not least, one must affirm the notion of a perfect God and imperfect being. Okay, as we know, there is nothing more important in this world as a servant, we as a servant, to acknowledge God's perfection and our imperfection. The so-called problem of evil discussed in the West is not presented is in Islam as a problem, but rather as an instrument in the actualization of God's plan that is intertwined with human experience as part of human spiritual development. Wallahu ta'ala alam bisawab. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much.
Dr. Nur Hanisa for the excellent material,
Thank
and I
you.
think it's an important and interesting topic because it relates to our akidah.
Yes.
طبعا
Thank you.
أيها المحاضرون، الآن نأتي إلى المحاضرة الأخيرة التي سيلقيها أستاذنا الكرام نيكي ألما فبريانا فوزي. أهلا أستاذ نيكي.
أهلا أستاذ قائم.
الحمد لله. إلى أستاذ نيكي فليتفضل مشكورا.
Okay. Thank you, Ustaz Qaim Ola Shahid. Let me share my yell. Is it fine? Okay. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Assalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Thank you very much for our moderator, Ustaz Qaim Ola Shahid, and my brother and sisters in short course on Islamic Studies held by Faculty of Islamic Studies, Universitas Ahmad Dahlan. I hope you are in the material of in this short course. Yeah. And then it's my turn for deliver my speech, my material. Is about hadith and technology towards the death of fictional hadith studies. I will from the panel hadith digitalized. If the student of the hadith would trace a hadith, or she to look for it in books of hadith. For example, when we are looking for hadith, salaka tariqan yaltamisu fihi ilman, and so on. We have to read to the hadith book, for example, the book of Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Tirmidhi, Sunan Abu Dawud, and so on. And then with the technology, this can simply trace the hadith through the digitized hadith in a software or program. Yeah. And now, when we are look the hadith, yeah, we just enter the keyword in the software. For example, when we are looking for the hadith innamal a'malu binniyat, yeah, we can enter the sentence of an-niyat in the software. For example, al-maktabah ash-shamila. We enter the sentence, and the software display the result of all the hadith book. Yeah. Innamal a'malu binniyat in Sahih al-Bukhari, in Sahih Muslim, and so on. With the development of technology. Yeah. So there is a shifting paradigm from hadith book to hadith digitalized. We have the many software hadith. Yeah. In this context, I will mention some of them. Yeah, we have Al-Jami' lil Hadith An-Nabawi, and we have Jawami'ul Kalim, and then we have also Jami' Khatimul Haramain Ash-Sharifain, and then we have also Al-Maktabah Ash-Shamilah. Yeah. The name of software is different, but the function is same. Yeah, which is for looking for the hadith. Yeah, when we are looking for the quality of hadith, whether is hadith sahih or not. Yeah, so we check the hadith in the software. We enter the keyword. Yeah, and the software will display all result of the hadith. What is the problem? Some student of hadith make this software as the main reference, yeah, not as a tool. Yeah, I have a story, yeah, about my student in Department of Hadith Studies. Yeah, one of the student has written a bachelor thesis. Yeah, in the thesis, he did the tahrij hadith, and then he concluded the hadith is weak. The hadith is da'if. Yeah, this hadith is da'if. And then one of the reviewer asked him why the hadith is weak. Yeah? And you can imagine the answer, because in the Jawami'ul Kalim display about that. Yeah. So the student said in the Jawami'ul Kalim, yeah, display about that. So it conclude the hadith is the weak. Yeah. It's not good, I think, for the student of hadith, because the student have to refer also to the book hadith, yeah, not only to the software. Yeah. And then second, what is the problem? Ignoring important principle in classical or traditional hadith studies. For example, about the weak hadith. Yeah, where is the disconnection of the sanad? Yeah, the student the student which is make the software as the main reference, yeah, not as a tool, sometimes did know, yeah, the disconnection of the sanad of the hadith. Yeah, when the reviewer asks him or her, yeah, where is the disconnection of sanad, and he did know, he did not answer, cannot answer. Yeah, because he addicted with software of the hadith. Yeah. And then what is the problem? The third, being addicted with hadith software because of its practicality and speed. Yeah. The question is why people are ambitious, yeah, for something fast. Yeah. People, the student, yeah, with the hadith software because of its practicality and speed. Yeah. And then the student wants to know the quality of the hadith fastly. Yeah. The question is why people are ambitious for something fast. Yeah. I will explain about the drivers of modernity. Yeah. I have taken from Dr. Fakhruddin Faiz, philosopher of one of the philosophers in Indonesia. Yeah, Dr. Fakhruddin Faiz, yeah, lecturer in UIN Jogja. Yeah. He said about the driver of modernity. Yeah. In the early modern, marked by production. Yeah. So who produce what will determine who he is. Yeah. In the early modern, marked by production. So who produce what will determine who he is. Yeah. And then in the late modern, yeah, marked by consumption. So who consume what will determine who he is. Yeah. But now in the postmodern era, yeah, marked by speed. Yeah. Marked by speed. Whoever is fast will win and will dominate. Yeah. So we can understand why the people very ambitious for something fast. Yeah. I want to explain about characteristic of technology. Yeah. Technology create the illusion of strength and power. Yeah. Lewis Mumford said, yeah, because technology create the illusion of strength and power. So someone want to be strength, yeah, by technology. Yeah. So when we refer to our case, yeah, about the student of hadith, yeah, with the development of technology, yeah, we have Maktaba Shamila, Jawami ul Kalim, and so on. Yeah, because the student have the illusion of strength, the illusion of power. Yeah. They imagine that that we have Maktaba Shamila in my laptop, computer, or we have Jawami ul Kalim in my computer. We have power, we have strength, but it's illusion, just illusion. Yeah, because when we have lost our computer, yeah, our knowledge is lost. Yeah, our idol is lost. Yeah, our power is lost. Our strength is lost. So Lewis Mumford said technology create the illusion. Yeah. And then we have Paul Virilio, yeah, said about philosophy of technology, characteristic of technology. Said about the integral accident. He said, when you invent the ship, you also invent the shipwreck. When you invent the plane, you also invent the plane. And when you invent electricity, you invent electrocution. every technology carries its own negativity, which is invented at the same time as technical progress. Yeah. And if we continue the sentence of Paul Friedrich, yeah, when you create the Maktabah Syamilah or create Jawami'ul Kalim, you also invent accident. Yeah. What's the accident on Maktabah Syamilah or Jawami'ul Kalim? The student of Hadith uh, of Hadith ignore about the principle of Hadith, traditional Hadith studies. Yeah. Okay. What lesson can be learned about this phenomenon? Yeah. The presence of technology in the study of Hadith is undeniable advance for which we should be grateful. However, we have to be grateful about the presence of technology, the development of technology in Hadith study, yeah, because it's undeniable advance. But this technological advance should not make the student of Hadith complacent and neglect the fundamental principle of Hadith studies. Yeah. Even though we have the development of technology in the Hadith studies, we have to master the fundamental principle of Hadith studies. We have to know characteristic or what is the Hadith Sahih, what is the Hadith Da'if, what is the Hadith Hasan, and so on. Yeah. And why is the hadith weak? Why is the hadith sahih? Yeah, we have to know. Yeah, we have to know. And finally, yeah, I will give advice for the student of the hadith, especially, yeah, from Imam Shafi'i. Yeah, Imam Shafi'i said, "Akhi lan tanala al-ilma illa bisittah. Sa'unbika an tafsiliha bibayan. Zaka'un wa hirsun wa ijtihadun wa dirham wa suhbatu ustaz wa tulu zaman." Yeah. My brother and sisters, one does not get the knowledge except the sixth thing. Imam Shafi'i said, yeah, one of the advice of Imam Shafi'i is tulu zaman, yeah, taking a long time, yeah, taking a long time. So in looking for the knowledge, yeah, need the time, yeah, need the long time, yeah. So be patient in your study, be patient in our and enjoying our process, enjoying the process. Yeah. I think it's enough for me. Sa Qaim Aula Shahid. I refer to you to open question and answer. Yeah, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Syukran jazilan li muhadirina Ustadz Niki Alma Febriana Fauzi ala husni ilqa'il muhadarah. Wa ayyuhal musyarikun, al-an qad wasalna ila majalil munaqashat al-ilmiyah bainal muhadirina wal musyarikun wal musyarikin, wa ana a'ti al-fursah liman yuridu ilqa as-su'al au yuridu ilqa al-ara. Bal qabla ilqa as-su'al aw al-ara fa yurja alaikum ad-daqtu ala ramzi raise hand wa tashghilul kamera was-saut. Falyatafaddal. Hal yujad minkum as-su'al? Ada yang raise hand? Ada nggak yang raise hand? Oh ya. Lau lam yujad fa ana aqra'u ba'du su'alat minal muhadirin fi YouTube. Awalan ba'du su'alat li Ustaz Jannatul Husna, lakin al Ustaz Jannatul Husna bisababi ba'dil asya' al muhimmah sa yatlubu minkumul idhna bidhihabi awalan wa yujad hunaka soal li Doktorah Nur Hanisa. Ahlan Doktorah Nur Hanisa. Doktor Hanisa, Doktor Hanisa, Nur Hanisa, apakah masih ada di Zoom?
Maaf, tak ada line.
Oh, masih ini unmute. Us. Hah? Sudah? Oh ya. Oke, sanantakil ila as-su'al li Ustadz Niki Alma Febriana Fauzi. Ustadz, ahlan Ustadz. Ustadz Niki.
Ahlan, ya Ustaz.
Oke.
Okay. Yes.
Hunaka as-su'al min Bagus Dit Moyo min YouTube for Niki, Ustadz Niki Alma. He said, we know that in our day there are many technologies that have become our facilities and make it easier for us to learn hadith. But why don't we find people who are experts just like the previous experts such as Bukhari and Muslim and others? And the second question is, it's still possible for us to have scholars like them in this current area? Tafadhal, Ustadz Niki.
I'm sorry, Ustaz Qaim, can you repeat for first question?
Okay. He asked, in our day, in this era, there are many technologies that have become our facilities and make it easier for us to learn hadith. Like Maktaba Shamila, Kama Kulta Anifan. But why don't we find people who are experts just like the previous experts such as Bukhari and Muslim and the others ulama? I think it's the first question from Bagus.
Okay, thank you very much, Ustaz Qaim. I will try to answer the question in English, but if in the process I meet the difficult, I will mix in English and in Indonesia. The first about why don't we have the expert in today, as hadith scholar, for example, Bukhari and Muslim. I think it's okay. I will start from my video YouTube I watch before I make the material. I heard the lecture on philosophy of technology from Dr. Fakhruddin Faiz on YouTube, and you all can search about the video, yeah. And he said about the what is that? Uh, apa kekurangan, disadvantage, ya, the lack of technology, ya, the lack of technology, ya. One of the lack of technology is not what we call in Islamic teaching berkah, yeah, because we get the knowledge fastly, and no process in the in the learning, in the studying, in the getting the knowledge, and sometimes when we study or learn the hadith from the internet or from the software or program, we don't have the teacher. Yeah? We don't have the teacher. We don't have the ustadz. Yeah, mudarris, muallim. Yeah, but as Imam Shafi'i said, yeah, one of the advice for talibul ilm, yeah, is sohbatu ustaz, yeah, sohbatu ustaz, because in this era, yeah, we have only the technology, yeah. Yes, it's easier for us, but Dr. Fakhruddin Faiz said it's not the berkah, yeah. Did not give the berkah, yeah, because, yeah, the student, yeah, the people get the knowledge, get the ilm, yeah, is very fastly, and then loss is very fastly, and its knowledge lost is very fastly, yeah. So this is the answer for the first question, Satkoim. And then the second question about is possible, yeah, is possible, is it possible, yeah, we will be a scholar, hadith scholar, yeah, as the Imam Bukhari, Imam Muslim, and so on. I think it's possible, but we have to many effort to get the goals, to get the goals, and to achieve the standard of Bukhari and Muslim. Yeah, I think in the Bukhari or Muslim era, yeah, no HP, no computer, no game, and so on. But in today, yeah, we have to study, we have to learn, but at the same time we have the handphone, we have the laptop, and so on. So we need many efforts to achieve the standard of Bukhari and Muslim, but it's possible, I think. Maybe it's enough from me, Satqaim Ola Shahid. Thank you very much. I return to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the excellent answer from our presenter, Ustadz Niki Alma Febriana Fauzi. And we still have one question again for Dr. Nurhanisa. Dr. Nurhanisa, ahlan.
Ahlan, Ustaz.
Okay, alhamdulillah. Dr. there is one question from Abidah Nur Azizah. She said, based on your explanation about theodicy, that everything happened was in accordance with God's justice. The question is, how do we view everything that happens as God's justice without falling into Jabariyah understanding, and how do we explain the concept of justice, the concept of theodicy, to people who don't believe in religion? I think two questions in here. Okay.
Okay. Shukran, Ustaz Faim. I believe that answering the question to that question is a session, maybe perhaps, but by the way, okay. So basically, the question is about how do we how do we explain to those the atheists on theodicy itself. Okay, so basically the first thing, atheists are those people who didn't believe in God, who doesn't have the belief and who deny the existence of God. It is important for us to actually understand why do those people with atheistic belief or atheistic understanding deny the existence of God. This is actually the main issue. The problem of evil is everything. The denial of God stems from the issue of the problem of evil. Okay, people could not perceive that evil. How to correlate or how to how to harmonize between the evil happening around us and the justice of God. Okay, God as the omnipotent and all that, the divine attribute. So that is the reason, from my perception and my reading, that is the main atheists deny the existence of God. So how do we explain to them that actually God is not like this? God is just. It will make it may take times and efforts to explain. First, that we must affirm to them that God exists. Okay, and we must affirm to them that the belief, that the nature of God Himself is just and omnipotent, and evil, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, does not actually relate to God. That is the main answer, and the main thing that we should actually make them understand. Okay, everything that happens in the world, okay, is based on what we act. Okay, especially the evil. Okay, evil, as I mentioned earlier, if we define itself, it is opposed to what Shara has mentioned and has taught us. Okay, what the Quran has taught. Whatever thing that we consider evil, okay, is not actually in relation. It is not actually an issue with God, because obligating what God needs to do and what God does not need to do is not within our capacity, is not within our capability, and it is beyond our limit actually to do that. So that is the main logical answer can propose, and that is what has been mentioned by Imam Al-Ghazali in his kitab Al-Iqtisad fi Al-Intiqad. Wallahu ta'ala misawab.
Okay. nashkuru syukran jazil syukri ala husni jawabikum. Wa ayyuhal muhadirun wal musyarikun al kiram wal ajilla. Alhamdulillah qad wasalna ila nihayatil muhadarah wa nashkuru awalan syukran jazil syukri ila muhadirin al ajilla fi hadzal yaum. And for the presenters, our committee has provided a certificate of appreciation ilal muhadirin ala husni ihtimamikum wa istima'ikum. Wa ana ka ra'isil jalsah a'tadhir minal adid anil adid minal akhta wa ilal liqa fi yaumil ati ghadan fi nadwah fi hadhihi nadwah أو في هذه الدورة القصيرة في يوم الأخير. أقول قولي هذا ونختتم هذه المحاضرة بلفظ الحمد لله. الحمد لله رب العالمين بالله في سبيل الحق فاستبقوا الخيرات. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam.